Andrew Chung, student number 00260-0010. Okay, now this is my CAS integration project about robotics. To begin, you may be asking, what is CAS integration? Now, number one, it's a senior project, okay? It's required for us to graduate. Yes, I am graduating. And I am going to college, you know. All right, they have been warned. So, now, we were told to begin planning this at the end of junior year, in which we were told that it was supposed to meet all 8 objectives. Now, when I came up with this idea in junior year, I was thinking of something completely brand new, something that wasn't done every year, like year after year. Like, for example, they've done basketball, butterfly garden, soccer, etc. They've done this, well, they've never done this before. Okay? Now, it tests your ability. Now, number one, creativity. As I said before, it's completely brand new. Okay? Now, the thing about robotics is that you're able to, like, create basically anything you want. Okay? You have all the necessary tools in order to create this. Now, in terms of action, okay, like, I had to plan out the activities that they would have to do. I'd have to select the projects that they could actually do. And in terms of service, well, it's pretty self-explanatory. Now, continuing on. So, one of the main 3 objectives that I was focusing on was working collaboratively with others. Now, my team of 2 stooges was Santiago and Daniel. Yes, they were my stooges. Their job was to help, well, since, you know, I had a group of 8 to 10 kids every single day, I couldn't, you know, help them all at the same time, you know. I obviously needed some help. So I gave them a basic briefing, you know, help the kids out, explain where they might have some faults into their project, and what they might need to improve on in order to actually make the project work. So, now, number one of the major, like, explaining skills, one of the major skills I had to do was explain to the students. Now, one of the things I actually learned was that it's a lot better to explain to students than it is to do things for them. That way they actually learn what to do. They become they become more self-dependent. Okay, they ask me for a lot less help if I explained it to them this way. Now, continuing on, plan and initiate activities. Now, originally, I was planning to do 5 straight weeks of building robotic cars. Now, I came up to one problem. The kids, they were misinformed. They had this idea of fighting robots, where like everybody would be able to build their own robot and make them fight in a ring, and they could put bets, etc. onto it. Now, you know, obviously I had to let them down slowly, tell them, you know, obviously we're not going to make fighting robots. It's going to be too complicated, and we don't have the time to do that. Now, another major issue was that we had different students every single time, and they weren't exactly of the age group from 13 and up. So that was one major issue because, well, they're kids. You know, what can you really expect? You know, at 8 years old, I understand, you know, they have a low attention span. I was at that point when I was in elementary school, okay? So eventually I had to move on to, like, simple projects where it involved, like, one motor, as you can see in the picture above, and let me put this video right here. Okay, it's not playing. But anyways, basically, they would create, like, this simple projects where, like, they would create, like, say, for example, a conveyor belt, okay, where it would just involve one simple motor, and it wouldn't involve any programming sense. Due to time constraints, you could do that within 2 hours. Now, improvisation. One of our major issues is that in some cases we had, like, a group of 3-year-olds or 5-year-olds, so, like, I couldn't exactly do robotics with them. In that case, you know, I actually printed out some coloring papers, and, like, you had to get them, like, the materials to actually color some stuff. Okay, so, you know, I had to adapt my lesson for, like, age groups that were below the age of, say, 8 to 13. Okay. Now, in terms of considering ethical implications of my actions, okay, number one, I had to develop a lot of patience. Like, from my personal view, I have the worst patience in the world. Okay, like, I literally start screaming at people when I get angry, okay? Now, I actually had to, like, control that and develop my patience throughout the entire project. And, well, I actually had to pass this on to the kids, too, because, you know, they're hyperactive, man. They're expected to be like running around, throwing things, getting hit by things, getting hurt, etc. And at one point they actually did start throwing robotics at each other, okay? Now, they had to develop their skills on critical analysis, okay? As in, they would have to like actually look at the book, they would have to recreate whatever was in the book in terms of images. And like a lot of times, you know, they would actually get things wrong. Which, you know, like I would explain to them, okay, look, you put this piece on the wrong connector, for example, okay? Like in that case, if say they put one piece in the wrong place, okay, at the end your product will not be the same, okay? A lot of the times it will not work out the way it's meant to. So, now number 2, developing attention spans, okay? 8-year-olds, man, they're pretty hard to control, okay? Considering, like, they acted like me when I was 8 years old, okay? I mean, they would be running around, they'd be screaming, they'd be throwing things at each other, they'd be pushing, they'd be starting fights, okay? Now, I actually had one difficult student, which I actually made a pretty big change on him, okay? He, like on the first day, he started working for about 10 minutes, and then I told him, okay, let's continue on to the next step, you have to find this piece. He gave me a straight up answer. He said, no. Pretty straightforward. Now, when he said no, at that point, I was struggling to decide what should I do, you know? After like another 5 minutes of him like throwing things around, being, you know, running around the classroom, screaming at the top of his lungs, etc., I finally decided, you know, this calls for some disciplinary action, okay, which was the thing I hated most throughout elementary school. So what I did was basically put them on a timeout chair for 5 minutes. And believe it or not, it actually worked. Okay, they actually thought about what they did and they calmed down. Now, details. Like I said before, critical analysis. Pretty much the same thing, okay? They just needed to pay more attention to detail. Now, calming down. That's still one of the major things, okay? I mean, it's just not easy. Like, on the first and second days, it was not easy being alone, okay, teaching a group of 8 kids. It was not very manageable, which is why I got the 2 stooges, Santiago and Daniel. Right. So, continuing. Challenges. Number 1, getting the kids to say my name. That was pretty hard, okay, believe it or not. I tried to get them to call me Master Chung, to Maître Chung, that's French, to Professor Chung, or Prophet Chung, Senor Chung, and then to even Andrew, okay? Like, they were having trouble pronouncing Andrew. They would either call me André or Andres, you know, which is understandable, you know, they don't speak English. Now, one of the major issues, time constraints, okay? 7.5 hours, that's not a lot of time, okay? Considering the type of depth in projects that, you know, that I chose, vehicles, they take quite a lot of time, especially if it's your first time playing with Legos. It's going to take longer than 7.5 hours, okay? Now, staying on task. A lot of the kids, they came here, like, either hungry or thirsty, and which is quite normal on kids. Like, they would always want to go to the bathroom. So, you know, staying on task was pretty difficult, and considering we had hyperactive kids that would make other kids want to behave, like, you know, badly, okay? Like, for example, if there was one kid that started throwing around Legos, another kid would retaliate, obviously. And, you know, they would start, like, throwing Legos around the room. Or if not, there'd be, like, a lot of time actually cleaning up, picking up Legos off the ground. Now, discipline. Like I said before, thank God, okay, I only had to discipline one kid. Because, you know, it bums me out to, like, you know, these kids are actually coming to our school, they're taking time out of their lives to come in to our school and, like, you know, have some fun, you know. Like, I understand, nobody likes to be disciplined when you're, like, visiting something. Like, when you're a guest at an event, okay, obviously you don't want to be, like, you know, timed out, you don't want to be, you know, in detention, okay. Now, another major problem was the riots, okay, like, you know, obviously there was political problems within, like, the past few months, okay. Originally, we were planning to have this project done before Semana Santa, which is what I promised Mr. Gordon. And because, well, after Semana Santa, he would actually start his class 1 robotics, which he needed the necessary kids. Now, we had a ton of virtual school, okay? Obviously, we can't have CAS integration with virtual school, you know? We can't have the orphans come to our house. That's going to be too much trouble. So we couldn't actually do it for like, we took like probably a 3-week hiatus, and then like another 2-week hiatus from that. And then came Semana Santa. After Semana Santa, Mr. Gordon had already began his projects, so obviously I couldn't use the Legos anymore. So that came up, well, that brought us to a speed bump. Now, okay, so now, in conclusion, number one, it was a pretty great experience on my part, okay? I mean, for once, I actually got to be a teacher of some sort. Maybe not a good one, but I don't know. That's up to them to decide. Now, it was completely brand new to me, okay? For once, I was actually in McCann's shoes, for example. Okay? Now, it actually increased awareness of my own skills, okay? These are all the CAS objectives I actually met, but I didn't actually report since it wasn't necessary. Because, well, it's something brand new. And it's like a project that nobody has ever done before, which actually started. Now, perseverance and commitment. Okay, I actually had some issues with that when I actually had to cancel my driver's ed courses on Tuesday in order to actually show up for the students because, they walked all the way up the hill in order to, have some fun, There's no way I could actually abandon them like that, Now, developing new skills, well, teacher skills. Now, in terms of my donation to the kids, I'm actually donating 2 different types of cars. One's for male, one's for female. I'm donating 50 of these to the orphanage since, well, my parents own a toy store and, we have quite a lot of merchandise. So I'm actually donating an entire, well, box of these of 50 cars. Now, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet, okay? Believe me. Okay? I know you guys want this to end. Okay, I know. You guys probably have the same attention span as they do, but Now, in terms of my self-evaluation, okay, well, I admit, I wasn't prepared for the last day, considering that the Lego kits were in use and I didn't have access to them. So in the end, we actually ended up joining with G-Shar and On Hill's group, and we ended up playing basketball, which we had quite a lot of fun. And surprisingly enough, 2 kids got injured. Now, I know I still need to develop my skills in explaining things. I know this, for example, McCann. He asked me for a lot of help when it comes to computers, and I am actually the one to do it for him instead of explaining it to him. So he actually learns and remembers how to do it. Okay, this happened quite a lot with the kids. Okay, I'd be explaining, they wouldn't understand, and sometimes I would run out of patience. I would be like, you know what? I'll do it for you, okay, so you can get to the next step, which isn't exactly good on my part, but I hope they actually learned robotics. Now, I saw myself in quite a lot of these students, especially the 8-year-old boys, okay? Now, they were quite hyperactive, which was exactly the way I was when I was in elementary school, and I admit, I am not the best student, okay? I'm not a great example of a student. I do not have a great attention span either, but it is quite understandable, okay? I mean, these kids, they're something different, okay? They're quite special. Now, my dreams of not teaching, okay? If I had to teach another student that was exactly like me, forget it. I'd probably strangle them. But, all jokes aside, I want to give my respect to the teachers, especially Ms. McCann. He had to deal with my problem. He had to deal with me for 6th to 10th grade. He's still dealing with my problems. Thank you for writing my recommendations. What's up?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
Not in a row, 4 of the last 5.
Yes, 4 years. Now, that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you.